1453. The walls of Constantinople, long thought invincible, stand tall against the armies of a 21-year-old sultan. His name? Mehmed II, later known as Fatih Sultan Mehmed, Mehmed the Conqueror. Turkish chronicles describe him not only as a fierce warrior, but as a scholar, a patron of the arts, and a visionary who changed the course of history. Today, through authentic Ottoman and Turkish sources, we explore his life, his wars, and his legacy. This is the true story of Fatih Sultan Mehmed.
Mehmed was born on March 30th, 1432, in Edirne, then the Ottoman capital. From the very beginning, his father, Sultan Murad II, saw in him the spark of greatness. Turkish sources describe a boy of sharp intellect and insatiable curiosity. He memorized the Quran at a young age, but his studies went far beyond religion. Under the guidance of his tutors, Molla Gurani and Akşemseddin, he learned Arabic, Persian, and Turkish, and later Latin, Greek, and even a bit of Italian. He devoured books on philosophy, astronomy, history, and warfare. Chronicles like Tariq-i Ebul Feth tell us he questioned everything, even his teachers. His education in Manisa was not just academic. It was a preparation for leadership, strategy, and the art of empire. He was raised to think like a scholar, but act like a conqueror, a balance that would define his entire reign.
Before Mehmed took power, the Ottoman Empire stood at a crossroads. His father Murad II had expanded the realm deep into the Balkans and Anatolia, yet challenges surrounded them. Byzantium still stood defiant to the west, while powerful Christian coalitions in Hungary and Venice plotted to hold the Ottomans back. Turkish historians describe the empire at that time as strong but unstable, a great tree with deep roots but vulnerable branches. The Janissary Corps, the heart of the Ottoman army, had become restless. Some vassal states paid tribute only when forced. It was an empire that needed a leader who could unify, reform, and dream bigger than anyone before. Mehmed would soon prove to be that man.
At just 12 years old, Mehmed was briefly placed on the throne while his father sought peace from the endless wars. Yet, when Christian armies threatened invasion, the boy sultan had to summon his father back to defend the empire. Turkish chronicles describe how this moment shaped him deeply. Humiliated, yet enlightened, Mehmed realized that power was not inherited. It had to be earned. When Murad died in 1451, Mehmed was no longer a boy. He returned to the throne with determination. In the words of Ottoman historian Tursun Bey, he carried the will of Alexander, the knowledge of Aristotle, and the courage of Khalid ibn al-Walid. From that day forward, he would rule with both sword and intellect.
For centuries, the Ottomans had dreamed of conquering Constantinople, the jewel between two continents, the key that would unite their lands. Mehmed, guided by both faith and ambition, made that dream his destiny. According to Ottoman sources, he was inspired by a famous hadith that said, "One day Constantinople will be conquered. Blessed are the commander and his army who shall do it." Every morning he studied maps of the city. Every night he discussed its fortifications with his engineers. To him, this was not just conquest. It was a divine mission. He believed that capturing Constantinople would transform the Ottoman state into a true world empire and make him the chosen ruler of East and West.
Mehmed's preparation was meticulous. Turkish chronicles describe how he built the massive fortress of Rumeli Hisari in just 4 months on the European side of the Bosphorus, opposite the older fortress of Anadolu Hisari. Together, they controlled the strait and cut off Byzantine aid. He gathered an army of over 100,000 men, Turks, Anatolians, Albanians, Bosnians, and even converted Christians. He commissioned the Hungarian engineer Urban to design gigantic cannons capable of destroying the once impenetrable Theodosian walls. Every move was calculated, every decision strategic. The Ottoman archives show records of immense logistical effort. Bridges built, supplies moved, roads repaired. Mehmed was not only planning a siege, he was orchestrating a masterpiece of military engineering.
On April 6, 1453, the siege began. Mehmed's army encircled the city from land and sea. Day and night, the thunder of cannons echoed across the Bosphorus. The Byzantines defended fiercely, but the Ottoman artillery, the most powerful of its time, shattered their walls piece by piece. In one of the most brilliant maneuvers in military history, Mehmed ordered his ships to be dragged over land, bypassing the great chain that blocked the Golden Horn. The defenders were stunned. Turkish sources record how the Sultan personally led prayers before every major assault, promising victory through faith and resolve. Finally, on May 29, 1453, after 53 days of siege, Constantinople fell. Mehmed entered the city not as a destroyer, but as a ruler. He rode to the Hagia Sophia, dismounted, and prayed, declaring it a mosque. The dream of centuries had become reality. He was now Fatih, the Conqueror.
After the conquest, Mehmed did not rest. Instead of destroying the city, he revived it. Turkish sources describe how he reopened markets, invited artisans and scholars from across the empire, and repopulated the city with Muslims, Christians, and Jews alike. He established the Patriarchate again, ensuring the Christian population could worship freely, a gesture that astonished Europe. He ordered the construction of the Great Fatih Mosque complex, complete with schools, hospitals, libraries, and kitchens for the poor. Under his vision, Constantinople became Istanbul, the heart of a thriving civilization that merged the traditions of the East and the intellect of the West. With the Byzantine Empire gone, Mehmed turned north. He led campaigns into Serbia, Bosnia, and Hungary. His tactics were swift and decisive, overwhelming enemies before they could unite. Ottoman records detail how his cavalry struck deep into Europe, capturing fortresses one after another. The city of Smederevo fell, Bosnia was annexed, and the kings of Wallachia and Serbia were forced to submit. Turkish historians emphasize that these campaigns were not acts of blind conquest, but of strategy, designed to secure the empire's borders and prevent European coalitions from threatening Istanbul. The Venetians, alarmed by Ottoman expansion, sought to control the seas. For 16 years, Mehmed fought them in a brutal naval war across the Aegean and Adriatic. Turkish naval archives describe massive shipyards in Gallipoli, where fleets were built to challenge Venetian dominance. Though Venice had superior ships, Mehmed's commanders adapted, using lighter galleys that could strike quickly. The war ended with a peace treaty that favored the Ottomans, recognizing their control over key ports and trade routes. It marked the beginning of Ottoman supremacy in the Mediterranean. Mehmed then turned east to unify the Turkish beyliks under one banner. The powerful Karamanids resisted his rule, but the Sultan crushed their rebellion. Ottoman chronicles note his vision clearly. There could be no divided Turkish lands. He sought unity, political, cultural, and spiritual, across Anatolia. With every campaign, he tightened the empire's hold, establishing a centralized administration and integrating local rulers into the Ottoman system.
Fatih Sultan Mehmed was not only a conqueror of cities, but of knowledge. Turkish sources describe him as a man who could discuss philosophy with Greek scholars and theology with imams in the same day. He built libraries filled with works of science, astronomy, and mathematics. He invited scholars like Ali Kushchi from Samarkand and Italian painters from Venice, blending Islamic and Renaissance cultures. The famous portrait of him by Gentile Bellini stands as proof of this cultural exchange. In the Ottoman palace, learning was as valued as victory, and under Mehmed, knowledge became power. Under Mehmed's reign, the Ottoman military became the most advanced of its time. Turkish military records describe the use of massive bronze cannons, early gunpowder weapons, disciplined janissaries, and rapid logistics systems that could move thousands of men across continents. His armies combined old and new, the skill of the archer with the firepower of artillery. His use of siege tactics, fortifications, and supply lines was revolutionary. Every campaign refined the science of war, and Mehmed personally oversaw the planning of each. Fatih faced powerful opponents, the Crusader kings of Hungary, the Venetians, rebellious Turkish princes, and even the Knights of Rhodes. Yet, according to Ottoman historians, he viewed each enemy not with hatred, but as a challenge to overcome. In the Battle of Varna, the Christian coalition was annihilated. In Trebizond, the last Byzantine successor state fell. When Karaman rebelled, Mehmed subdued them once and for all. He respected strong enemies, but never tolerated defiance. In every encounter, he proved that the Ottoman Sultan was not merely a ruler of lands, but of destiny itself. In his later years, Mehmed's ambitions grew even larger. He planned campaigns into Italy and Egypt, seeking to unite the Islamic world and challenge the powers of Europe. Yet, before he could fulfill this vision, illness struck. On May 3, 1481, Fatih Sultan Mehmed passed away, near Gebze, on his way to another campaign. Turkish sources say his soldiers wept openly, for they knew they had lost not only their sultan, but the mind that had built an empire. His body was returned to Istanbul, where he rests beneath the great Fatih Mosque, the monument of his faith and vision. In Turkish history, Fatih Sultan Mehmed stands as more than a conqueror. He is remembered as a leader who united worlds, east and west, faith and reason, sword and pen. Tursun Bey, his court historian, wrote that Mehmed was a man whose shadow stretched across nations, whose words moved scholars, and whose courage shook kings. His legacy endures not only in the stones of Istanbul, but in the spirit of the Turkish nation, a reminder that true greatness is built through vision, intellect, and determination. Fatih Sultan Mehmed was not just the conqueror of a city, he was the builder of a civilization.
The story of Fatih Sultan Mehmed is one of ambition, intellect, and destiny. A man who dreamed of uniting worlds, and did. His name still echoes through the streets of Istanbul, in the domes of his mosques, and in the hearts of those who believe in courage and vision. If this story inspired you, subscribe to History Unveiled, like this video, and share your thoughts below. Which part of Fatih's legacy do you think defines him most? The conqueror, the scholar, or the visionary? Until next time, remember, history is not just what happened, it's what we choose to learn from it.